Welcome to our Portuguese Table podcast. I'm Maria Lawton, the Azorean Green Bean.
And I'm Angela Simoes, and we're just two chicks dishing about Portuguese food, culture, and what it means to be Portuguese.
So grab a glass of vinho or un copo de café and join us as we talk about our favorite foods, reminisce about growing up Portuguese,
and interview some of our community's most successful chefs and food writers.
So sit down at our Portuguese table. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Portuguese table. I'm Maria. Hi, Angela. Are you there, honey?
I'm here. Hey, Maria.
Hey, we have an amazing guest today, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to share all of these guys with every one of our listeners. It's the Portuguese kids.
Hey,
what's going on?
Maria, stop building us up. We're not that important.
Oh, stop it. You know,
We're
it should be
you. What's the who's doos recipe? This is what we're interviewing you for.
All I have to say is that if you thought we laughed a lot before,
I'm gonna try to contain myself because I do giggle.
As serious as possible.
Yeah, just so the listeners know, we're all wearing diapers right now, just in case.
My God.
Does it have the Portuguese flag on it?
Actually, it's Charlie Brown, and then right on the front, it says "Good Grief."
Okay. No, guys. No. Well, we're so happy that because both Angela and I know how busy you guys are. You just came back from Australia. You probably still have jet lag.
It's been about 5 minutes, so you make this quick, please.
I actually just woke up, so Australia was great.
We've been hibernating since we got back from Australia.
I bet. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be at our Portuguese table. So Angela, I know you're a big fan too.
Guys,
I am.
There was going to be food. What's going on here?
It's a virtual glass of wine.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I'm driving, so no thanks, but you enjoy.
So how long have we known each other? Because I first met you guys when you came out to the Dia de Portugal festival in California. And
the first person to get us in California. Like you were, the one.
And I remember that conversation. It was like, you can come out here, but I don't think we can pay you anything.
You know what? You really didn't.
About that.
No, actually, the opportunity was payment enough because that honestly, that was the door opening for us. And we can't even, it's insurmountable, the benefits of that trip and what's, transpired ever since that first time we went out to California.
It was a vacation anyway. It was like for us, we were like so young. We're like, let's do this, guys.
Yeah, let's go surfing. And we just stood in the hotel.
Yeah. One thing we didn't realize how big California was. Remember, we started in San Diego and we drove up to San Jose, and we GPSed it. We're like, guys, it's 8 hours.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, what do we do?
I think there was at one point on the drive we drove for a half hour, and it was the same cattle farm on the side of the highway.
Yeah, right.
The whole length for a half hour.
Harris Ranch. Yep. Yeah. It's funny. So many people, like, we have cousins come visit us and we're like, well, we'd like to go to Vegas for the day. And we're like, no, that doesn't happen.
Especially from where you guys are, it's like an 8-hour drive from Vegas.
Yeah.
More. That's funny.
Yeah. But you know what I loved about you guys coming out to California? It was so different. I mean, I love our festas and I go to all of our, the Dia de Portugal and stuff. And we have the folklore groups and I dance for a folklore group and we have the bands and the singers. And then you've got this comedy group and it was just so different. And everything you guys did, everybody could relate. And you're like, oh, my grandmother said that. Or, oh my God, my mother does that. Or, I mean, it was just so relatable. I think it was such a breath of fresh air for people. It was awesome.
Crazy. It's crazy for us too, because we've been doing this for so long. And then Australia, for example, we're going out there and like, all right, like, let's see if this material hits. And then we do it. And it's just, the laughs are so loud. And it's like, man, it's just, it doesn't matter what part of the world you live in. If you're Portuguese, growing up in an immigrant home, that immigrant lifestyle, it's all the same. It's just, the accents are different depending on where you are.
Right. I think it's like the way that we don't assimilate to wherever we live. At least the first, I think that goes for any culture. The first, second, maybe third generation are very Italians came to America. The first, second, third generation is very Italian. Then it starts to fade away, and you do see that with Portuguese people. But we're still relatively new to like so many of these countries. Like they just started emigrating in the 60s and 70s. So a lot of these things still hold true. So for us, it's great because it's, it means that there's always a market for what we do. But it's also interesting too because we're experiencing the same thing just literally thousands of miles away, even from California. Like it's a whole new world in California. Like you guys don't have snow. You guys don't deal with what we deal with.
You don't fry fish in the basement. You fry it in the garage.
Yeah.
So we had to learn that the hard way. We're like, hey, go fry fish in the basement. And everyone's like, what's that?
Yeah, we don't have
that
here.
We don't have basements here. No. So we definitely have a lot of food questions we want to ask you, but one thing that I'm not sure a lot of people know is, like, how did you guys get started? And how did you come up with this idea that you were going to do a comedy group? And then, what were you guys doing before? And then at what point do you say, I think I'm going to quit my day job and we're going to do this full time? Well, I mean, that's a huge step, right?
But it was actually, I think, a bunch of gradual steps. Like we started, we were always kind of like friends growing up. We went to the same church, youth group. We did retreats together. One of those school, everything. We just knew each other our whole lives. And then one day I was in school in college, and a friend of mine was like, he was like, he worked at the public access station. He was like, hey, if you want to do a show, you can do a show here. It's free. And I was like, wow, that'd be so fun. So like I got all the guys together and like we're like, let's do the show. We had no idea what we were doing, and when we look at the footage now, it's like cringeworthy. But we thought we were so funny. We were like, "When's MTV gonna call us? What car are you gonna buy when SNL hires us?"
Well, MTV did call us. They gave us a cease and desist. Stop bothering us.
I don't think so.
Eventually, a friend of ours, he went to Boston, and he was on a date, and he took his date to this place called the Improv Asylum, and he was like, "You should check this out. Like, this is a bunch of, to theater, a bunch of people doing some pretty cool stuff." So we looked it up and we found out they were doing classes on improv. And it was like, 6 classes, 6 levels, whatever. And we immediately just signed up. And from there, the rest is history. And they took a liking to us because people went there and they were like, after this, I'm going to do pottery or I want to take, karate or whatever. It was like they're just having fun. But with us, it was like, how do you run your business? They kind of saw that we took like an interest in them and how they run their empire, because they really did have like an empire in the north end of Boston, and they always just kind of like took a shine to us. So when eventually we decided. How many
years? How many years has it been, guys?
12.
2004. So 12. It'll be 12 years this October.
Wow, that's awesome.
First time we stepped on stage. Yeah.
And we first started off as Out of the Gutter comedy.
Yeah,
that's right. I remember that.
Not an easy sell to Portuguese clubs.
Yeah,
Out of the gutter. You're gonna clean our gutters? Like, no. Do a comedy show.
True story. I had a radio station call us once, and they were like, "Do you want to buy an ad for your company?" I'm like, well, I don't. And she's like, for your gutter cleaner company. I was like,
"Oh,
we need to change the name.
We need to change the name."
Something
That's
easy.
Right.
Well, I mean, the old name kind of, it was kind of fitting for what the type of comedy we were doing. We never focused on cultural comedy from the beginning. I mean, there were parts of our show where we kind of showcased this funny little segment called Portuguese Americana. We would take like a specific scenario and how that scenario plays out in an American family. Then we rewinded it and showed the exact same thing side by side in comparison to a Portuguese family. And people laughed, at the Portuguese comparison. And then eventually we started noticing like that was the stuff that people walked away from the show raving about and remembering. Like we did topical humor about American Idol or this in the news or that. Well, the typical stuff that you see in a monologue on the Tonight Show, by Jimmy, one of those guys. They make fun of stuff that's happening and that's what we did. So Out of the Gutter was just like a funny name of these guys coming from the gutter, coming from, the low end of the spectrum, trying to make it big as funny guys on the scene. And that's kind of what that was. But it really, it kind of had a shelf life,
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the culture stuff is and was what was going to make us, big. And eventually,
but you're absolutely right on what you do and how you bring what exactly we grew up with, and it brings back all those wonderful memories. At the time they were going on in our lives, it wasn't so funny, but now when you look back on it, it's hysterical. But in the meantime, I know how you make, well, we laugh at ourselves. We're laughing at our moms, at our dads, our grandmothers. But at our Portuguese table, we always come back to talking about food. Oh, yeah. So now when you're at that table, what is your favorite dish? The one that your mom kind of like makes it the best. And I want you guys to take turns. We'll start with Brian. Brian, how about you, honey? Or is this too much pressure?
There's so many. Everything she makes, it's it's good to go. Like my wife loves when I go to my mom's house because she knows I'm coming home with food. I think the go-to. Oh man, that's so tough.
The one dish.
Always. I used to work construction with my dad, and the go-to sandwich my mom would always make, which till this day she always knows that's my favorite, is ovos com chouriço, eggs and chouriço. It's just the way she makes it. I don't know. It's just the way she makes it. It's just
she uses lard.
Lard. Hey, that's fine, exactly. And I enjoy it.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Al, how about you, honey?
It's funny you're asking because I think back and my mom and my dad together. Actually, I don't see this too often in many Portuguese homes. So my dad cooks as much as my mom does.
Really?
Yeah. Like my dad's the kind of Portuguese guy that when you go to the Portuguese clubs, you have that guy in the back making all the bifanas for the feast. Like that would be my dad, even though he doesn't cook at the feast. But my dad cooks a lot at home. And between the two of them, they made all kinds of traditional stuff back home. And everything was always really good, although growing up, I didn't appreciate all of it. There was certain things like ervilhas and things I was like, oh my God, gag me. I would hide it inside the bread, to get off, to like run away from the table and told everybody I ate everything. But everything they made was really, really good. And to this day, it still is. But if I have to say, there's something that my mom makes that's sort of a hybrid of traditional Portuguese food. It's a pork loin pot roast. But she takes a link of chouriço and puts it in the center.
Yes.
And then when you slice it and you get a slice of like the pork roast, there's a little disc of chouriço in the middle. And she does it with the gravy, the moule that you would make like carne guisado.
Yes.
And she just roasts it in the oven inside a roasting pan for hours. It's so good. She can't even make it all the time because we would devour it, but she makes it for like Easter or she'll make it on the side for Thanksgiving just because everybody wants it. So whenever we're having like a big family dinner, she'll make it just because everybody wants it. So for me, that's like my favorite. And then my dad makes like homemade hamburger patties out of just ground hamburger, but he makes it Portuguese style, which is like a ton of garlic cloves all chopped up in it. And then he takes the pimenta moída that he makes at home, and he puts that in there, and then he just kind of mixes it all up and makes the patty out of that. It's the best.
Only one favorite, Al. Sorry,
so that's those right there. I can't say no to either one.
Derek,
hot dogs,
how about you?
Best hot dogs. Definitely my favorite is octopus pulled.
Really?
Yeah, that's my favorite. My mom makes it fantastic. It's just even my mom, like we were on Bizarre Foods one time with Andrew Zimmern. The Portuguese kids were highlighted, and they asked my mom to cook some stuff. And Andrew Zimmern's like, he had some of my mom's pulled, and he was like, "Dude, what the hell is this?" He's like, "The best." He's like, "This is so good," and it really is. I'm like, I looked at it, I was like, "You're right, my friend. It is the best."
But you know what's funny? The first thing you went for was Marcelo.
Yeah. Yep. Marcelo's always.
Oh, another great thing.
Marcelo with a fried egg.
Good Marcelo San Miguel, Maria, remember?
Oh yeah, that is the best. No? Angela's like, no.
No,
it's so good. If you had a San Miguel like in the Azores, it just tastes different. It's better, fresher, bloodier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, crispy. The casing is nice and crispy.
She's just like disappearing into her. No, don't want it. I'll be honest. I can't do bacalhau, so
you can't.
I don't know. There's something about bacalhau that.
Maria, I don't know if you remember when we were flying home on Sata on the way back from San Miguel when we were out there together. They served bacalhau on the plane, and Brian was ready to open the door and jump out.
Yeah, my aunt was like, important. She asked me if I was hungry. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to eat on the plane." They served bacalhau. I couldn't believe it. I just ate bolacha Marias the whole time.
and the whole plane stuck. First off, that's just bad. You know, like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't serve fuck on an airplane.
Boiled codfish on a plane.
The whole airplane stunk. You know, I'm like, dude, be like, what the hell were you? I'm like, Salta. I was on the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did travel together, Angela. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
That so we could do a whole podcast on that experience. I'm
We
sure.
could.
Rhea was the loudest clapper. She's like, oh,
Yeah.
we landed. Thanks God.
And now you promised you'd keep that a secret.
Hey, no, I'm glad that you mentioned the whole clapping thing because I've actually met a few Portuguese who are like, clapping? What is that? I'm like, really? Have you not been on a plane with a bunch of Portuguese people when you land and everybody's like clapping and saying the rosary? It's,
we travel for a living, so we can tell you like with the utmost certainty that only Portuguese people do this.
Yeah.
There have been times where there have been flights that like we're like, dude, let's turn our antennas on and like message our families, I love you, before we crash, because it's like we've had those like
scary moments.
Flights. And we land, and I'm like, I'm ready to clap. I'm like, yes, good job. Like, no one else is in. I'm like, this dude deserves a round of applause. And then sometimes on soft, I'm like, that was the worst flight ever, and the worst landing ever. And I'm like, people are clapping. I'm like, no, I don't give the guy a round of applause. I'm like, that was
They're just happy they landed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's right.
So do you guys cook at home?
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I'm pretty handy with it. My brother's a chef, so I have a little competition, but I do enjoy it.
I make a decent sandwich and a bowl of cereal.
There you go.
Brian, don't say that. I bet you do.
You should see the way I order food.
I can navigate a menu.
Yes, you can. And then Brian adds mayo to everything. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, it is good.
You know what I make
Mayo's
for good, Maria?
What's that, honey?
Salata.
Oh, yes.
Your recipe, by the way, I make it all the time, like all of the time. I even like message Brian pictures of it because he loves it so much.
Yeah, I love salata.
And I'm like, hey, Brian, look, I'm eating this right now.
I'm a very good improviser, and not just on stage, but in the kitchen.
Oh,
this guy's good.
No, I do. I don't know what it is. I find myself like half the time when I'm cooking, I'm literally just trying to figure out how to get rid of something that's been in the fridge for a while. And I'm not gonna lie, I get rave reviews.
Yeah. No one makes a better wilted salad than Al.
Oh my gosh.
The way the brown lettuce touches your mouth, it's
oh my God, that sounds wonderful.
Like, is this
Now,
gum in the salad?
So the other question that Angela always liked to ask everyone is, now, what would you not eat? Was there something Portuguese that there is no way in hell that you're going to eat?
We know Brian's.
We know Brian's is bacalhau
and liver.
I like liver. My mom makes it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
I agree with Brian, the liver. But fish heads and like the eyeballs and all that stuff, I don't know what it is. It's like a Cadbury egg for my mom. She just like, I don't know what it is. It's like I see it all the time, and it's not all. My mom likes to eat the eyeball. Like she'll suck on it and like I don't know what it is, and then like she'll spit it out, and it'll hit the plate, and it sounds like a little metal
like a
shot.
spittoon, right?
Yeah, like ding, ding, and it just hits the plate. I'm like, what did you just do that for?
You know what I hate? I was at a restaurant and some guy was eating fish and he was like sucking on that bone. He's like doing that like sucking thing. I'm like, dude, it's not a toothpick. Like, it's done.
One time we were in Toronto doing a show this show that's called Azorean, and it's done by Gente Nossa TV, and it was us with Denise Paiva. And we go to this restaurant, and they put out a platter. It was cozido, right? But they put out pig knuckles and pig ears, and I'm like, that's just horrendous. And I remember Nelly, the lady that is the host of that show. She's like, "How do you know you don't like it if you don't try it?" And I was like, she's right. And I'm like really into Anthony Bourdain. I love Andrew Zimmern, and I think that they're so brilliant. Let us eat whatever. So I said, "Give me this thing," and I ate it. And the first bite, I almost gagged. I said, "Dude, it's cartilage. It's like I'm chewing on like my ear." I'm like, "That's disgusting." So I said, look, I've tried it, and I can tell you that it's disgusting, and I'll never try it again. So that's the one thing I won't eat is a pig ear, and I won't even look at the knuckle. Like, I'm like, it's just gross. It's like gelatinous. Ugh.
Gelatinous.
So, Al, it's funny that you mentioned the fish eyeballs. So I have just a quick story. When my husband and I were first dating, I think we were only dating, it was less than a year, and so everything is still kind of new. And we were at dinner at his parents' house, and his mom, they serve food the old school way, right? The whole fish and everything. and she was eating a fish head, and she was like, she took the eyeball, put it in her mouth, and I must have had this look of like, oh my God, like, what the hell did you just
Like,
eat?
what kind of monster is your mother?
And she kind of caught my eye and like gave me this look like, what are you looking at me for? And later on, my husband was like, yeah, okay, just don't have that face. Like, don't do that again.
Just smile.
Like, this is how
It's
you eat.
so odd.
Don't do that again. But then my mom, she'll like go to the grocery store and grab a jar of pig's feet and just eat it like straight out of the jar.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's one of those that will eat
First of
anything.
all,
And
I had no idea they sold jars of pig feet.
Yeah, I thought that was
horrible.
just like
Is
at
it
the
pickles?
deli.
Yeah,
Where-
pickled.
Yeah.
Pickled.
That's
Yeah.
pickled,
yeah.
yeah.
God.
I like
That must
pickled
look
onions.
like when you buy it in the jar. It must look like some kind of display. I like P.T. Barnum's
Yeah.
like oddities,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
chicken heads in a jar and pig's feet. That's
Yes.
disgusting. Yeah.
like you're at an Asian store or something, and like where you can buy all the different body parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's there. Oh.
You know why? And it's like my mom would say it. Like we're younger, and it's still true, right? You know, she's like, we're so poor, we couldn't afford to throw out
Exactly.
anything. You know,
Right.
Yeah,
even like
yeah.
chicken feet are in my was in the kunja, and I'm like,
Oh,
that's-
absolutely.
You know, and which is so so disgusting. A chicken foot. It's like ugh. Ugh. Anyway,
But it tastes so good.
that's the second thing I would eat is a chicken foot.
It's all a
You know what?
texture thing, right?
Say it again.
Because the flavor is probably really great. It's
It
just,
is. Oh,
That's-
absolutely.
it's
You know what?
Sure.
That's a perfect point.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know, right?
Right.
That it's
Exactly.
that what you're eating is that good. But
Right.
it's your mind. Your mind just kind of
My
thinks about how gross that body part is, and you're like, no, I'm not touching that. I'm not eating that. But I mean, the flavor in it could be delicious. And
my parents tricked me and my siblings one year when we were younger into eating goat. We thought it was chicken. They're like, oh yeah, galing, and don't worry about it. And it was goat, and they told us afterward. And let me
Good
tell you,
stuff, right?
loved it ever
Yeah.
since.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
goat and rabbit.
I
Oh, I
dated
love
I
it.
dated a girl once where we did Thanksgiving together, and their family was like, we love your mom's Portuguese stuffing, but could your mom make it without the giblets? You know what I mean? Like my mom would put like all that stuff, like chicken liver, all that, right?
The heart.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, I can ask my mom. So I was like, Mom, can you do that? And then she's like, yeah. So like Thanksgiving, they're all eating, and I'm like,
Does
wow,
it taste the same?
I'm like, Mom, it tastes the same. She's like, yeah, it's because she's like, I put the giblets in there. I just ground them up. I was like,
I love your
I'm not gonna
mom.
compromise my
That's-
recipe because these people are dumb. And I was like, good for you, Mom. And then-
Good for her.
so there you go.
That's why it's
That's
your
what I
ex.
was looking at.
Good for her.
The damn thing the right way. I'm not going to be with you.
So I'm curious. You just got back from Australia and in all your other travels. How was the food similar in terms of like? So I know they have Vegemite, right, and things like that.
Oh my
but
God.
Gee.
Yeah, that's so
Hey, everybody
gross.
out there
That's
listening,
gross. That's
Don't-
gross.
Don't
If you want to
do
eat
that.
Vegemite, I got a cheaper version for you. Go find a nice rusted pipe
Yeah, go
Yeah.
get
in your
mud.
basement, ground it up with some water, and make a
Actually-
paste out of it.
Funny story. We get there and they mentioned Vegemite, and I guess it's a big Australian national pride thing. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
and I guess it got sold to like a major corporation recently, so it was like a big to do. And so we were like, oh, we never had it. They were like, what? So she ran out to the store and got a jar. Al's sleeping at this point, so me and Brian, we try on some toast and we eat it, and of course we immediately gag.
I
I'm like,
died.
"This is
I had to be
horrible."
resuscitated.
So when Al wakes up, he sits down, he's drinking his coffee. I look at Al, I'm like, Al, you have got to try this Vegemite. And
It's
Brian's
really
like,
good.
you got to try it. No,
No,
we
no,
didn't do it. We were saying like, dude, try this because it's
Try
so
it.
it's
bad.
bad. And
Oh,
I
He
didn't.
didn't
I
know
tell
this.
you,
He
Al
was
was
laying it
half
on his.
asleep.
I thought they were being sarcastic. I'm like, okay, guys, yeah, whatever. And I was putting like spoonfuls of it on.
And he
It
was putting like a whole thing of toast. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm telling you, it tastes like crap. He's like, oh, I think I just knew it tastes good. I'm like, no, dude,
Oh.
it tastes like crap.
And they were like, eat it with like, you're supposed to eat it with butter and something else. It's like, I can't imagine that's going to enhance the flavor. I was literally,
But you know,
Yeah.
back to the food thing in Australia, we had chorizo out there, and you know, and even in California. And this is nothing against our Mike. We love California, everything about it, but there's just no food like South Coast New England Portuguese food, and I don't know what it is. You know how they say pizza in New York tastes different than pizza anywhere else because it's the water. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's because the recipes for the sausage is different here. But for us, maybe it's because we grew up with it. But there's just nothing compares to the food that we have at home. I mean, there's always good meals, but nothing ever compares to the food back home. And you know, this is the mecca for Portuguese food. You know, like you go to California, it's like one restaurant per for 40,000 people, or whatever. Here it's like 40,000 restaurants per person. Like you can't throw a stone without hitting two Portuguese restaurants. And we're spoiled in that way. And I think that's one thing that we definitely have it good here. Weather sucks, food's good.
I would have to agree with you on that because you guys know Buckadell Grill and Trade, right? So they import a lot of sausages from like New Jersey and stuff like that, and it's different. And we here in California, linguiça is bigger than chorizo, right? So you guys eat a lot more chorizo, I think, than linguiça.
Yeah,
and then it's also different. And then if you go even further west, have you guys been to Hawaii?
No, yeah.
That'll be next, guys. That'll be next.
Yes. So if you go to Hawaii, they have linguiça on the menu, and it's not linguiça. I mean, it has like the flavor of it, but it's totally Hawaiianized. I don't know what they've done to it, but it's not like anything that,
more like Spam. They love Spam out there.
It's kind of, I mean, it's still really good. It's just not, I mean, you talk about comparing it to southeastern New England Portuguese food, it's going to be completely different.
Talking about multi-generational difference. Hawaii people, Portuguese people have been in Hawaii for so many years that it's just been, the food's just been kind of
watered down.
Yeah, homogenized.
Yes, it has been homogenized.
Everyone's it's kind of like a universal flavor. I guess you could say that about a lot of things.
Now, in Australia, did you find more people who were from the mainland or from the Azores?
Or from Madeira.
Madeira, yeah.
Really?
It was, well, in Sydney, it was more mainland. And then in Perth, it was 90% Madeira. And then I think in Sydney, it was maybe 40% Madeira, 50% mainland, and 10% Azores. There was one table from the Azores.
Yeah, just one.
10 people from the Azores.
South Africa is mostly Madeirense as well.
Right. We're heading there this year, too, so that should be interesting for us.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
This is good. This is a big year for us. Very, very big year. We're accomplishing a lot of our bucket list items.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate this year. We knew it was gonna be a big year, but it's just things keep happening. It's been monumental for us. So South Africa, we're pretty excited about.
That'll be in November, guys?
I believe it's November. Yeah, we're still trying to finalize the date, but it's either September or November.
And where's your next one? Where's the next wish list of place to go?
Man, we don't even have any more. Hawaii is definitely on
Hawaii
there.
would be nice to get to.
Hawaii would be nice.
The UK. That's always been one on there as well.
UK
Some
might happen
Portuguese.
this year too.
Yeah.
Again, it's Madeira. A lot of Madeira.
Do you know that there are more Portuguese mainland? There are more Portuguese that live in Paris, France, than anywhere else. There are more immigrants.
I knew that.
There.
I knew
It concentrated in one place? Really?
Yep, in Paris, France.
I knew that they had a huge community out there. I mean, we'll never go there unless it's on vacation because, we only parle English, so kind of hard to get down there. Wee.
That would be a tough one.
See ya. But you know what? We do Montreal all the time, and they speak French, and we do our show in English, and they love it. So who knows? Maybe we could do something in France.
That's right.
But they speak English there though too, right? I mean, I've been to Montreal.
Yeah, it's still bilingual, but I think a lot of primarily the community itself, they speak French or Portuguese.
Yeah.
French being kind of like the universal language for everybody in the city, and then Portuguese for the Portuguese community. They'll speak Portuguese first, but
yeah, we
English is like third on the list.
Yeah, we definitely speak more Portuguese on stage and when we're doing shows in Montreal. In Quebec, because we do Laval as well. Just because we know that not everybody speaks perfect English out there. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't speak English at all. It's either French or Portuguese.
And Portuguese with French words in it.
Yeah, which is
wow.
So are all of you? I know you all grew up together. Are all of your families from the same part of Portugal?
No,
not necessarily. No, Brian's mom is from the same town as both my mom and dad.
Freguesia.
From the same freguesia, which is the same freguesia that Jay's mom and dad were from. Derek's from a whole other island, different smell with Derek. So,
so the reason I was asking is I was just curious if you found, does your humor relate to people from no matter where they are from in Portugal, right? Or if they're from the Azores or if they're from the mainland or Madeira, do you find that some people are like, I didn't I didn't really get that joke because my mom doesn't do that, or that's a very Azorean thing.
I mean,
I think a lot of it is more of like the the different ways we pronounce different things, because the accent
and
slang is different, because like the upbringing is still the same. It's that whether it's the strict parents or make sure they get a job and the daughters have to be home early. But a lot of it is just like, it's the slang. Like here we call it malasadas, but out in California, it's filhos,
right?
It's not malasadas, So it's like, these are the things we got to figure out when we come do shows, because it's, even like the nicknames.
We get there day early and we kind of like hang out with people and we kind of get to know a little bit about them. And then we ask certain questions, but.
Yeah.
Even like the nicknames for Portuguese people, like over, porcos out in Australia, pork chops in Canada, Portuguese here in the East Coast, like all these like different slangs. And you're like, all right, what's going to make sense? What goes here? Do our homework,
I mean,
next time you're up in Canada and you want to talk about malasadas, just say beaver tails. That's the same thing.
Really? Beaver tails.
Yeah. Yes.
Funny.
Yes.
Back to your question, like when we do shows to Azorean crowds, like I usually ask where you're from, in the beginning of the show. Our Azorean crowds are usually more raucous and like louder and more,
I think Azorean people are just very full of life.
They identify so much with what we're doing on stage because they do speak that same exact lingo. So when we do a show to like an Azorean crowd, it winds up being like some of our best shows. But a lot of people think, oh well, you have to be Azorean to get what you guys are doing. We go to New Jersey, and anybody will tell you in New Jersey it's 99% mainland. We sell out shows, 700 people, 600 people, and they're all mainland, and they all enjoy what we do. So it really does. It really is universal. But like Brian said, I think the only difference is the way we speak. And sometimes they go there just to laugh at that because they think it's funny. Like a lot of people from mainland Portugal get a kick out of the way we talk. Like it happens all of the time. Like,
all the time.
Well, we Californians get a kick out of the way you East Coasters speak too.
Yeah, of course. Like water from Boston.
But we met Joaquim de Almeida in Canada a few months back, and he was like, "Oh, the Portuguese guys." And we stopped. He's like, "Vocês falam português?" I'm like, "Sim, senhor." I'm like, I say 100%. That's why I said like 100%. I'm like, And he's like, "Oh, vocês são suriosos."
The first 10 seconds he pegged us.
I always feel like I have to apologize and say, okay, I'm going to speak as well as I can, and I apologize if I say something wrong. I always feel I have to do that because my accent or my slangs are Azorean.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's like, for me, so I don't speak Portuguese fluently, right? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I never took Portuguese in school because we never had it, and so the little I've learned, and I will admit I'm inhibited a little bit because I'm afraid I'm going to say something wrong. So my thing is, if you speak a second language, who cares if you pronounce it wrong? At least you're speaking it and you're trying. You know what I mean? So you should never apologize for the fact that you speak a second language. I think it's incredible. I mean, I do work with companies in Portugal, and they're always apologizing for their English. I'm like, don't apologize. You're doing business in English. Right. I can't even speak your language.
Better than my Portuguese, trust me.
Exactly.
It happens all the time. And we had a meeting yesterday. Some guy, he's like, 2 days ago, and he was talking in Portuguese. I was like, oh man, I'm going to do this meeting in Portuguese. I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay, so I got to put my thinking caps on. And then he just like stops, like, you prefer I speak English? I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I'm like, yes.
But then the meeting actually morphed where he was speaking Portuguese and we were speaking English.
And it worked out okay.
That's hilarious. So Brian, you mentioned a word that I don't want to, have us go on a serious note or anything, but I'm sure that one of our listeners is going to pick up on it, and so I just want to touch on it. So you mentioned the P word.
Portuguese.
Yeah. So I will tell you that here in California, most people don't take offense to that word. And in fact, there was a song written, "I'm proud to be a Portuguese from the Azores," that we used to dance to at the festivals, right? But then I worked for Palcus and started working with people on the East Coast, and it was like, oh no, that is a bad word. Like, you don't say that; it's very offensive. So I'm curious. You kind of mentioned it as it's a slang. So I'm curious how you approach that word.
I don't think it's an East Coast thing. I mean, we grew up in Fall River, Mass. 60% of the city is of Portuguese descent, right? And this whole area is just entrenched in Portuguese culture. I've never, growing up my whole life, I've never, ever saw someone say Portuguese and see someone like take offense to it, unless
Really?
the person wasn't Portuguese.
You hit it right there. You hit it. Yep.
So it's like the N-word.
It is, in many ways, and I hate to say that because the N-word. When people say that it's our N-word, I disagree. Like you don't even know what the N-word really means if you're saying that. Like the N-word, there is nothing like the N-word when a white person calls a black person that. But it's in that same vein of like, okay, only a Portuguese person could say it. Growing up, they're like, hey, this guy's a Portuguese. Like we used to say it all of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But the minute, like, I remember, like, someone, like, who's not Portuguese, like, yo, the way they said it, dumb Portuguese. Like, that would be the thing.
The context.
What did you just say?
It has a double side to it.
Yeah,
Yes,
it don't say that. So I think to some people, it's a term of endearment. But to other people, it means, like, it means stupid. It means, like, you know, my father growing up was, like, you know, like, in the 70s, it wasn't cool to be Portuguese in New England. Okay? You know, That's why so many Pereiras turned to Perrys and so many like, you know, like Machados and Marshalls. It's like people were embarrassed to be Portuguese because they were the modern at the time. They were the Mexicans, right? So like, you know how like you have this a lot of people who are anti-immigration. They felt that same way towards Portuguese people, especially in the 70s in our area because it was all factory work, landscaping jobs, construction jobs. These guys came in here, worked their butts off, worked twice as hard as anybody else, and they didn't like that, especially unions and stuff. They're like, whoa, stop working so hard. And like my dad would be like, if I work too hard, they'd be like, hey, greenhorn, which is actually a term.
Fisherman term.
Well, it's actually for Irish. It means immigrant, right? Well, I mean, it's like, greenhorn means
being green, being new, like off the boat, kind of a
greenhorn.
So like, you know, hey, greenhorn, stop being, you know, dumb Portuguese. My dad would tell me like people say that to him all the time when he was working, and he was like, you know, it was something that he dealt with a lot in the 70s and 80s. So to my father, Portuguese means something very, very bad. But me growing up on the school ground, I'd hear people call me Portuguese. He was Portuguese too, so it wouldn't bother me.
But the crazy thing is, like I said, everywhere we go, there's a different nickname depending on where you go. Because Canada, it's like, you know, we said Portuguese once, like, oh, what's that? Like, like we say
they've
pork
never
chop.
even heard it?
Well, they've heard it, but it wasn't a word they used. It was like pork chop was the one. Like we called pork chops. And then in Australia, it's porco.
And again,
the nickname.
The pork chop thing is like, can also be viewed as derogatory if a Canadian's calling a Portuguese person like, you know, hey, pork chop, get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know, so like it all depends, I think, on who says it.
It's the context.
I find that it's the I don't know how to say this without. Maybe I should not say it, but I know.
No, I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
And it's like the people that are more educated, people like Palkas, people that are higher education, they take more offense to it, and I don't know why. I don't like. There's one woman that there was a lovely article about growing up in Fall River in the New York Times. I think it was the New York Times or the New Yorker or whatever. And this woman was like, I believe she's in literature, I believe. Very intelligent woman. I follow some of her stuff, and she was so upset that this writer used the term Portuguese because like his aunt was like, go down the street and buy something from the Portuguese neighbor or whatever. And she was so upset that, you know, the word Portuguese was used that she was like, boycott this newspaper, like, or this magazine. I was like, that's a little, I felt that was a little much. You know, she was just, his aunt was a product of her time. And that's just how it was, you know.
Yeah.
For me, well, I was going to say, you know very well with the name of the company that I have, the Azorean Green Bean, it all comes from taking the name of what I was called growing up. And, you know, that's right. I'm old enough to be all your moms.
I am more like my older sister. Stop.
Oh, stop it. I love you too, but no, I'm old enough to be your
mom.
Later, son. But the thing is, you know, coming in the 60s and like Derek said, you know, in the 60s and 70s, I was called Portuguese all the time from, you know, the non-Portuguese kids and greenhorn and pork and cheese, you know, that's so, flesh bean. I don't know. It was like, you know, a fava bean or, you know, whatever it was. And the whole thing is it was used to knock you down, to make you feel less than what you were. And so I'm right there when Derek said, you know, it's different hearing it from someone who is Portuguese, who now if I hear that word Portuguese, I don't care where I am. If I hear that word, I almost have to I'm like a possessed woman. I've got to go over to that person and go, "Are you Portuguese?" And they'll go, yeah, I am. I'm like, "Oh, okay, fine." It's
if not,
okay.
the brass knuckles come out.
Oh my God. It's like, that's it. That is the most insulting way. And I refuse to accept that. You cannot speak to me like that or be around me speaking like that. No.
I will say though, you definitely don't hear it from the older generation.
No.
It's usually like people our age and younger that are like using these slangs and saying it. But
so for me, it's become more of a concern about how non-Portuguese understand how to correctly refer to people who are of Portuguese descent.
Right.
So 2 quick stories. When I was working at Palcus and somebody called our office and said, "Yes, we need some data about the Portuguese community in the United States." And we said, "Okay, we're happy to help, but you should know that the correct way to refer to someone is Portuguese." And they said, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so what we really are looking for are, the Portuguese communities in California and New Jersey." And we said, again, the correct way to say it is Portuguese. And she wasn't getting it. Like, she actually thought that the way you refer to somebody who was from Portugal or Portuguese descent was Portuguese. So there was a miscommunication there. Second example I have is somebody once sent me a flyer because I have my Angela's list where we publish information. She sent me a flyer saying, "Can you put this on your list? It's a fundraiser for this woman who has cancer." And I said, "Oh, yep, of course." I opened the flyer and it says, "Help a Portuguean." And I wrote her back and I said, I thought maybe it was a nickname or like something funny. And I said, "I'm happy to post this. I just have to ask, what is a Portuguean?" She said, "Well, somebody from Portugal." And I said, "Well, no." I said,
That's the first.
I said it's Portuguese, help a Portuguese. And she said, "Oh, I didn't know. I just thought it was like, Cuban or Dominican and Portuguese, right?" So for me, there's a level of education that needs to happen, right? And just making sure that people don't know that that's the right way to say it is Portuguese or Portuguese American, right? Not Portuguese. So that's my thing.
I'm taking it. I like it.
What, Portuguese?
Portuguese. I'm like, it's not a trend.
Let's
Portuguese.
boycott Derek DeMello.
Stay Portuguese, my friends.
Portuguese. That's a different one. Yeah, I can see,
First and only time I'd ever heard that, so I thought it was creative. But so anyway, again, they didn't want to get into a big, serious, downer topic, but I know that someone was going to pick up on it.
People refer to it as like Portuguese. Hey, I'm Portuguese. It's not like the Portuguese or the pork chop or the porco.
Yeah.
It's the other one. This is nobody missing to.
You know what I am? I'm a human.
I'm a human.
Look at that. Spin on it, guys.
Well, and then just one other quick example. We have Portuguese Heritage Night for the San Francisco Giants, right?
Yeah.
And the announcers on the TV, the guys that call the game, said, "Oh, we're here at Portuguese Heritage Night," right? The number of people that like emailed us and called and on Facebook, like, did he just say that? Oh my God, right? So again, it's an education thing, right? People have to know that that's not the right way to refer to our community. So safest thing to do is just not use it.
I'll be honest with you. We never use it. Like we used, like when we first started, we might drop that word a couple times when we were just like local, but we learned that it offends people, and we've tried to, we try not to do that. We try not to, we like.
I think the only time it's really used is in that song "Vapu." Oh, I can't say the word.
Yeah. Oh no,
C word.
Changing room too.
And changing room.
Yeah. There's a scene where we specifically have this obnoxious, like Anglo-American character who's giving a Portuguese lady a hard time shopping in a store because she's not able to speak English. And the guy gets irate and he basically like demeans her and tells her, go back where you came from and go learn English if you want to be in this country. And then he calls her a dumb Portuguese. Mm-hmm. And that sets off her rant. That is the funny part of the sketch. We use it in that.
And she does speak English.
And she does speak English.
We just can't say what she says.
Yeah, she has some choice words for him, and the crowd erupts every time because they all. I mean, it goes back to you, Maria. They come from, a lot of them come from that generation where that word was used when people were coming over and immigrating over, and a lot of people wanted to be able to punch back and say, "Oh, you call me a Portuguese? Well, guess what? Boom! Here's something back at you." And that sketch touches upon that, and the crowd erupts when the Portuguese lady says what she says back to him.
Which show is that a part of? Because I know you guys have a few different shows.
That's
it's
part of the regular Portuguese kid show. But that's one where it's a Portuguese lady with her son. It's like called Changing Room, where the son's trying on pants and the mom's like only speaking in Portuguese and the son replies in English. And then the store person comes out asking for help. She's like, you want me to speak English? And then she drops the F-bomb on him. And then the song, Apu, the C word, is, again, it's the non-Portuguese boss who's talking to Joao, who can't pronounce João.
Yeah.
He comes out and he says the Portuguese thing, which is like, and then he drops the Vapu, and then the crowd erupts because it's just, that's what they want to say to him as well. Obviously,
right.
To people of the past. But that one nickname I hate that people always call me is Big Chorizo. I'm like, oh, I know, but
if I'm called sexy Portuguese boy again, I can't take it anymore.
Oh
it's so annoying.
Enough's enough. I get it. Jeez.
I used to have an email address with the name Carapau.
Carapau.
That's funny.
Oh, I've never heard that in a while. That's from a song, right? I Carapau. Yeah, there's a song that
told me once that a hot chick is called a Carapau, and they were probably totally lying to me, and that's like what you call an ugly girl or something. But I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna make my email address Carapau.
That's the message name.
Can we, what we should there should be like a support group for everybody that looks back at the email address name that they picked when they were like 21 years old.
I know.
And like, why did I have an like you go like to a job interview or on your resume and you have like Carapau 101. You're like, why did I pick that?
I know.
People make some bad choices for email names.
Speaking of support group, that would actually be a really funny sketch if you had like a support group of for like Portuguese kids, and
with
the guilt that you
emails.
feel and.
My mom hit me. It's like, okay, sir, how bad was it the chinela or was it the wooden spoon? That would be pretty funny, actually.
Like the
email address.
The wooden spoon group meets on Tuesdays and the Chanel meets on Fridays. So.
All right, so this was a great job interview. Now, your email address is kershiratebecalyao@aol.com. That's where
you have to say it like Caro Shirar to Bacalhau. What?
Bacalhau? But the João thing, man, sometimes we'll make the tweet, like, when your non-Portuguese friends try to say the word João. And some of the retweets we get and responses are just like, it's like Joao, Joao.
Joa.
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 Yeah.
Hey, Joa.
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 Joao.
So what's next on the docket? You guys have like My Big Fat Portuguese Wedding. You guys have like a few different shows. You got anything else in the works?
The only two shows that we're doing now are the Portuguese Kids, and then we still do My Big Fat Portuguese Wedding. Right now, we're just doing a local. We are taking it to Canada in September, and then we're trying to get it to California in 2017. But it's such a process because it's a cast of 12, so it's an expensive show. But it's a fun show. It reenacts a wedding, and it's one of our funner shows, and it's really one of those multi-generational things that you can bring your grandparents, your kids, and everyone has a really good time because it's just very,
it's laid out like a wedding, really.
Yeah,
you have the ceremony, there's food services, there's dancing.
You know what? Like, I forgot to tell you guys, we just did that show this past weekend on Saturday, and the room was filling up, and people were kind of hanging out before the show starts. And I hadn't gotten dressed into character yet, but I guess there was a table that knew I was, one of the Portuguese kids. And I was walking by that table to go to the sound booth to go work, make some adjustments or whatever. And the lady like literally grabbed me by the arm and she goes, "Oh, I can't wait to watch the wedding." She's like, "Where do you guys have the thing to put the cards?" I'm like, "Huh?" She goes, "Yeah, I brought a card."
No, she didn't.
Yeah, she did. She had a card that she was going to give to the bride and groom. And I honestly, I think it had money in it.
Oh, no.
Like they got into it that much. They got a card and they were going to give a card to the couple.
There was a couple once that brought sardines. You remember that? Like fish in a bag that was all tied up with a bow. They were like sardines.
No, they didn't.
They were like, it's a traditional thing. I was like, I never heard of anyone bringing sardines to a wedding. That's kind of smelly.
They do. They get all excited because they're like, oh man, this is going to be like, the wedding, all the weddings I've been to. And they just want it to play out and they're enthusiastic to, have all that stuff happen.
I can actually say, I was at their first show when they did their Portuguese wedding, and my husband and I went, and it's a wedding. It is a wedding. You get it's what you imagine a wedding to be, but a lot more fun. That's for sure. A lot of laughs.
I can't wait. I haven't gone to that one yet. I would love to.
It'll happen in California for sure. And this last show, I had real authentic Portuguese people in it because a lot of people complaining that the soup needed salt.
The soup needed salt. You're always going to complain about food.
O soup tá em sons. And I'm like, sir, these people, they need so much salt. Like, you're being clogged with salt. There's just not enough of them. I'm like, the soup has plenty of salt. It's delicious. No, it needs more.
No.
That's what salt on the table's for. Oh,
Tiny sauce. I love it. And I love how we keep going back to food, guys. And we're reaching our hour here talking to you. And I'm so happy that you were able to take this time to be at our table. Hopefully you haven't been drinking too much wine. I know Angela has.
Hey, it's not even noon yet, Ryan.
What are those virtual espressos, Angela? You work in Silicon Valley. You can make something happen, can't you?
For those that don't see us, Angela's showing off her cup of espresso, and then she just took a jug of wine. Was that a jug of wine?
Gosh. No.
It's port.
My water.
It's your water.
Sure
Yeah, okay. I've never seen burgundy-colored water before. What's going on out there?
But no, we just want to thank you again, and that you're part of this with us, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, it's exciting.
It's our pleasure.
We'd love to
Thank
be
you.
part of something new like this, and we appreciate it.
Can we come by next week?
Then we're just.
You want to come by next week?
Yeah.
Who you guys interviewing next?
Joe Rigo, I believe.
Oh, yeah, Chef Joe
okay.
Rigo.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll be there.
Can you please ask him about the fish eyeballs?
If you could pipe us in that day.
But
Ask him what's the best way to prepare fish eyeballs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll let him know.
in cereal. Ask
yes,
Brian to
sir.
put it in cereal for you.
So next week we'll be in California, so we'll go visit Angela for some food, and then go to Maria when we come back and get some more food there.
There you
Sounds
go.
good. Good.
So,
Sounds great, Brian.
But seriously, guys, I just want to say one more time how incredibly proud we are of you guys, and so happy to see the success you've had. It's been truly amazing. I think you guys are a first. You're setting a trend, and honestly, I think, and I hope, inspirational to the younger generations that you can truly be anything that you want to be. Right?
Yeah.
The world is your oyster, and you don't have to. It's not limited. You don't have to, follow, you don't have to do everything your parents or your teachers or whatever tell you to do. If you have a passion and you want to do something, go do it. So
That's what I told my parents. I said, you sacrifice so I could, not work.
Yep.
And they did not like that. But once we started getting paid, they're like, okay, I guess.
okay. Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we are proud of you.
Parents still hated what we did. They were like, not hated, but they were like, Derek, this is so nice. But when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah. I'm leaving my job to do this full time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
How are you going to pay for food? I'm like, we're going to get paid still.
Yeah,
That's how this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, guys.
Thank you again, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll be putting your website and so people can find in the show notes so that people can find the next show if they're going to be in your town. And as always, listeners, thanks for listening, and send us your thoughts, comments, and suggestions, and send us your pictures of you sitting at your Portuguese table.
Nice.
And for those that are listening, subscribe to our channel, tell your friends and family, and let's just keep moving on and including more people and talking about how great it is to be Portuguese and being proud of who we are.
Power.
Here you go.
Power.
Portuguese power. And spread the word, Come on, everybody. Português ajuda dois a três.
That's right.
Wow.
Like that.
I like that. That's a great way to end it.
Dude.
You can keep that. I had a 90-year-old man. I used to work at a bank. I know we're going over an hour. We can cut this out. I used to work at a bank, and I had like this 90-year-old guy that would only come to me because I spoke Portuguese. And he would come up to me and he'd be like, my calculator is better than any computer you have. But I used to help him out with his checkbook and stuff. And then one time he said, I really appreciate you helping me. And I said, anytime, sir. And he's like, the old saying goes, he's like, português ajuda dois ou três. And I was like, wow, what an amazing saying. Sometimes
Yes.
it's not like that, but a lot of times it is, and it's great to have that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And on that note, can't think of a better way to end it.
Yep.
Bye-bye, guys.
Stay Portuguese.
Stay Portuguese.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was awesome. Love those guys.
Yes.
They're just so fun and genuine, you know? It's
Yeah,
so
they are, and I know, like, we can say this again, but we do know them personally, both you and I, Angela, and they are the real thing. There is what you see is what you get. They're great guys, and I think we're all proud of them, because when we see one succeed in our bunch, you know, we all succeed, and
Yep.
I'm just beyond. I just love it. I love what they do, and glad that they're able to do it, and glad that they were again here with us today, which is great, because they're so busy.
Yeah, and so, you know, everybody, hope you enjoyed the interview as much as we enjoyed doing it. And send us your thoughts and comments. Follow us, subscribe to us, follow them, subscribe to them. And we'll just share the love all around.
Yeah, just follow everybody. Gosh darn it. And until next time, everyone. Até a próxima.
Até a próxima.
Thanks again for listening to our Portuguese Table podcast.
If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so on SoundCloud or iTunes.
And all episodes can be found on our website at www.ourportuguesetable.com.
You can also reach us at feedback@ourportuguesetable.com with comments, questions, or suggestions.
Até a próxima!